my ex-wife was stopping me from seeing the kids because she didn't want my kids to see what was going on with me. So I cried a lot during the night because I really missed my kids.
Mm.
And I thought that was horrible. But there was this other part of me knowing I need to do this. And I had no idea where I was going. There wasn't a bigger plan of when I know what this is, I can talk about it.
We are back with Perry Knopper talking about his incredible journey and going through an experience of being homeless and really satisfying a curiosity that he just couldn't shake for some reason. Now, Perry, during the break, we talked a little bit about having this capacity and this realization almost of unmasking oneself and having an opportunity finally for the first time in your life to just actually be you and be yourself, that you didn't not trying to put on a face for someone else. Can you expand on that a little bit more and for our viewers?
Yeah. Yeah. There were no expectations. The only expectations that were there was judging me. It's when people look at you, they look at you with their knowledge. So they look at a homeless person and they register that in their thinking, like, or he's addicted, or he's in trouble, or is mental disease, or you get these labels immediately. I'm sharing this because this triggered me so much. I have labels, different labels. I have neurodiversity, I have dyslexia, ADHD, and I'm on the spectrum with autism. And that's by weirdness, right? And having dyslexia, for instance, when you're not good in reading and writing, and at school you're making these mistakes constantly, your teachers are addressing that every time. So since I was a little kid, the red pencil was there always. Every time I got something back, there was red pencil all over it because with my dyslexia, I was making mistakes, and they're real mistakes, of course, but it didn't mean that I was not able to learn or not to understand. But if I would write something down, I would make mistakes. So I really thought I wasn't very clever, if that's constantly coming back. So what do? You create a mask and you pretend to be someone else. And I think the homelessness was for me, without knowing that in advance, that was the big thing in my life, to remove everything, including the mask, because there were no expectations. What do you expect from a homeless person? Nothing. That's the beauty of it. You don't expect anything. Maybe not to be showered or stinky or smelly or maybe an alcoholic, but there are not a lot of expectations. So I could remove my mask and I could really start looking at myself. And I remember this so well. I was standing in the living room of a girlfriend of mine, and I was saying to her, you know, I think I understand it now. I get it. And she said, "What do you get? Tell me, exciting, cool. Tell me more." I said, I can't explain it, but it's crystal clear." And she said, "That's really weird, Perry." I said, "Well, you haven't seen anything yet. This is," but I could feel that something clicked. And that something clicked for me was, I have a nonlinear brain and I live in a linear world. And I've tried my best to be as linear as possible. And guess what? I'm not. Otherwise, you also don't decide to become homeless. So in these 7 months, what a lot of things can happen in 7 months, right? It's it's unbelievable. So you remove your mask, you find out everything stays the same, yet everybody looks at you differently. You discover your own neurodiversity again. Like, oh yeah, I hid that in the drawer of my desk. Dyslexia is not there. Let's pretend it's not there because everybody is has an opinion about it, and they see Perry. This is also something. How do you know who you are? Who's Richard? You only know who you are of what people are telling you. Because if you remove that, if you remove what people are telling you, what's there? There's nothing. And that's you. Doesn't mean you're nothing, but it means it's really you. And I've heard my entire life, and I'm not a victim at all, but it's hardship. And when you're here your entire life, you cannot read and write. it's not very good for your self-esteem. Now I write. I published a book. I love it. I love reading and writing. They killed it.
Mm.
I see now how I can do it. I love it. You know, it's that period of 7 months was so important to me. And I had no idea. And my curiosity triggered that. I'm a curious misfit. I'm weird in a way. I don't fit the mold. And I'm curious. I always want to know. I'm so curious. I want to know everything. And sincerely in my feed, I was like, okay, this was 4 years ago. I'm now 49. You know, so I was thinking before I get too old to do this kind of thing, I need to do it now. And I already had a very interesting life. We were expats. I lived in China. I lived in Belgium, created a TV show in China, was on China radio, learned Chinese, all kinds of cool things. But it wasn't enough for me. This was the most important thing I had to do in my life, really, because it discovered who I really am. And if you understand who you really are, and this sounds like a commercial, that's not what I mean. But if you really understand who you are and you can remove your mask and 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 you're not moving towards the expectations of others, you can be your true self. That's awesome. That's really important.
It's so interesting to hear you share that. It makes me think of my experience understanding and getting my Colby A index for the first time, and that was about 11 years ago. And the Colby index, if you're not familiar, is it really, yeah, you know, it identifies your natural instinctual way of doing things, of being, and for me, it was very revolutionary. And it's like, oh, right, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm not broken. I'm actually exactly the way I'm supposed to be. And these things that I've been doing that the world has been telling me I should stop doing are actually, I should be doubling down and doing them way more because I'm really good at it. And if I just put my energy on that, like I can amplify my capacity, my ability, my energy. It just was really liberating for me to know how my natural instinctual gifts can provide value not just to myself but to others, and not shy away from them, but to actually put more attention on them. So, you know, similarly, I found, like, you know, I didn't go homeless in the process, but I was able to start to see some of those trends and recognize them now. And so that continued and constant awareness has helped me, and certainly a lot of my clients and the people I love to serve. What I'm curious about, you know, in this process, once you started to get to some measure of discovery, there was like kind of some aha moments that took place here for you. How far was it, or how long was it before you started to, I guess, ramp yourself back up and move out? You know, when was the decision to kind of transition? Okay, I'm no longer going to be homeless. I'm now going to move forward with something. How did that start to materialize?
I never did that.
Oh.
I need to explain that. I'm not homeless anymore, but I didn't want to leave that place. I didn't want to leave the freedom of where I was. You know, I wanted to be in a house because I want to have my kids with me and I wanted to have security, to be safe, to work and to be with my family. That was very important. But if you ask it that way, it sounds like, okay, this was it, and now I'm going back
Mm.
to where I came from, and that never happened. Because and that's the linear versus nonlinear thinking. I stayed there. Yeah, I didn't want to go back. And that's also why I created the global movement and the nonprofit. And I didn't want to go back where it felt for me as a very linear way of working and expectations. So I need to go back into these expectations in these boxes. And I didn't want to go there. And I solved that for myself to take the decision. I don't want to be an entrepreneur anymore. I want to be an artist. I want to be an artist. I love art. I've always been active in arts.
Mm.
And I wanted to be an artist because you cannot define exactly in a linear way what an artist is. And I thought this is the best space where I could be, is to become an artist, because there are no it's the same space almost as the homelessness. Maybe that's a quote, you know, being homeless or an artist is the same thing. It's not everybody understands you. There is no clear segmentation of what it actually is. There are books written about the philosophy of the meaning of artist. What makes an artist an artist? It's difficult to wrap your head around it. And I think that I have fascination for that, because that allows me to do so much more than just to do the one thing that everybody sees in their observation when you say what you are.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. It sounds like, it's, you've gone back to certain aspects of life that are, call them creature comforts, but you haven't gone back to anything else. You pivoted and changed the way that you want to run and operate your life to be very intentional about being unintentional.
And I want to embrace that for myself, but more important for others as well. So, how I see the world, how I see other people is that I really see them and I'm not observing them, because I don't want to be one of these people that were looking at me when I was homeless. I don't want that. And that works very well with the Octopus Movement. That's why the Octopus Movement is there. There are no expectations, there's no judgment, there is no observation. It's just, it is what it is. And I like to see the things as they are without observing them too much.
Yeah, fascinating. Well, I'm excited to unpack a little bit more about what the movement is. In fact, we're going to dive deeper into that when we come back after this commercial break.